The Benchmarks Foundation has released another damning report into the South African mining industry. It has been focusing on corporate social responsibility in the mining environment, and the latest report concerns the coal industry. The foundation says that workers face a hostile environment and unsafe and dreadful conditions. It says mining companies generally are flouting environmental, labour and social laws frequently and openly, and coal miners concentrated in Mpumalanga are no different. Well, South Africa is heavily reliant on coal to produce electricity. It's also a significant participant in global coal markets, with Anglo and BHP Billiton dominating. To discuss, we're now joined by the lead researcher for the Benchmarks Foundation, David van Wyk. Thank you for joining us, David. But before we get to your report, can we talk about this fear of job losses? So Harmony today, BHP announcing restructuring. It comes after Anglo Plat. And what the companies always say is that it doesn't necessarily have to lead to job losses if we sell mines, because the new owners could come in and do a good job. What do you make of that argument, and what's the prospect for jobs right now?
Well, I think that what happens is that the majors sell mines just before closure, just before the resource actually runs out. And in that way, they evade the mine closure obligations that is placed on them by the Minerals and Petroleum Resources Development Act. And as a consequence, the new owners who take over the mine actually take over a liability, usually a very big environmental liability. Very often there's very little profitable reserves left, and very often you would have issues of acid mine drainage and so on emanating from those mines, and the new owners don't have the necessary resources to close those mines down properly.
You would think they would do their homework. I mean...
Well, you see, the thing is that I think in South Africa there's a problem in that there are many juniors coming into the market thinking that mining is a quick way to become rich and wealthy. And what then happens is they discover that mining is actually a very expensive business, and having a marginal mine is even more expensive. So you have, in Johannesburg alone, 600 abandoned mines. You have nationwide 6,000 abandoned mines. In the Witbank area alone, you have about 165 abandoned mines. And these mines become a huge liability to the community and society living around them, because they become huge environmental hazards and also health hazards.
Well, let's talk about that, getting into the report on coal mining now, because there's been alarm for years about acid mine drainage, the acid that builds up in these vacant mines. And I thought it was a historical problem that we were dealing with, that the mines were going to share the costs. From this report, it sounds like the problem is being exacerbated. I think you call the miners cavalier. So just tell me more.
Well, yes, I think that you have mines, and we've identified the 165 mines that have been abandoned in that area. Now, when you have an abandoned mine, very often you get informal settlers congregating on the mine.
Is this in Mpumalanga,
this is
area
in Mpumalanga, this is in Witbank. So you have at Coronation Mine, for example, the whole mine is now occupied by informal settlers, a squatter camp basically. Underneath the settlers, you have board and pillar mining, and the pillars are busy disintegrating because of the acid water that is filling up the mine. And in the rain season, the topsoil becomes too heavy, and then you have huge sinkholes in the middle of the squatter camp, all over the squatter camp. Also, because coal is black, it absorbs heat from the sun. You have spontaneous combustion of the coal, and you have people falling into pits and things like that, and burning their legs, burning their hips, and so on. And also you have illegal mining taking place on these dumps. And you have, we've had now 2 or 3 kids dying already because parents use their children. So the father goes into the hole, he digs the coal, and he passes it on dustbin lids out, and the kids pull it out from underneath. But the whole pile caves in. So really there is an environmental disaster, apart from the fact that the pans that have been built to control the acid mine drainage have not been maintained in the Witbank area. So you have this acid water spilling into the Olifants River, for example, and downstream towards the Kruger National Park and so on, you then get crocodiles that the bodies are actually filled with heavy metals. You cut the crocodile through, and the inside, it looks like a mining pipe with all the heavy metals concentrated inside the body.
David, I mean, this is incredible to me because you're dealing with the two big miners of the world, Anglo and BHP operate in the area. We have a slew of laws. We have a constitution. According to the mining charter, the mines have to come up with plans, social plans, worry about the environment. How on earth is this allowed to happen?
Well, I think that in South Africa we have very good laws, but I think the application of our laws is not as good. And the reason for that is because we have, and we can name names and shame people as well, we have people who are senior politicians and senior civil servants and so on in various departments and so on. As soon as they retire, they're absorbed by the mining sector, and they still have influence in their departments and so on. So you have a situation where if I'm a junior official and I'm an environmental control manager or whatever in the department, I'm not going to look at a mine that has a powerful politician on its board or in its shareholding structure, because I could lose my job. That person could just pick up a phone and I would lose my job. The law in South Africa needs to be applied. The mining indaba that was held in Midrand last week, the Minister of Mining once again said that in terms of the mining charter, they will relax it and not insist that the targets be met by the end of 2014 like they were supposed to be. Now, the mining charter targets are very relaxed as it is. They're not very difficult to attain. 10% women in your labor force. That's not difficult to attain. Converting your hostels into family accommodation, that should not be difficult to do. You know, but I think that the mines insist on maintaining a very high profit margin at the cost of their social responsibility. And they would say social responsibility drives up their costs. Now, the other thing which is very problematic in South African mining, the MPRDA has tried to open up the industry. But 5 companies are still responsible for 80% of coal exports, including Anglo and BHP Billiton. 87% of platinum exports, 5 companies, well, 3 companies. Gold, the same story. And unless we begin to address this skewing of the industry and these very powerful companies that are there that walk away from their responsibility every time by selling the responsibility to people who are not capable of actually closing the mines properly, we are going to have these problems.
Because we have that imperative to give new opportunities to new up-and-coming entrepreneurs, but it sounds like it's problematic.
Well,
David, this is such a minefield. I think we have to chat again. I hope you will come and join us again, but we have to leave it there. David van Wyk from the Benchmarks Foundation.